You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. So the only thing that I wish hadn't happened was that I didn't see the curb. And I went up on an island, like a short island next to the at the gas station, next to the gas station building. I'm like, doesn't seem to have hurt the vehicle. But somebody's up to something, that's for sure. Did I tell you my ex-wife had a narcotics issue? A pill issue, an addiction issue. Your families will rot in hell. Every last one of yous. Definitely cursed. Question is, how much physical adulteration was there? Felt like the whole time they were there watching me. That there's no doubt about that. They were cursing me and watching me. There's no question that I'm not going to do anything illegal with anything I bought. There's never really been a question. The only question is when you are all going to hell. How long can Satan keep you alive here to make you all feel like God is blessing you by allowing you to prop up narcotics distribution and sex trafficking while pretending to be the heroes? So essentially, it's the same thing as Mexico. It's an illusion. They only arrest certain people. The other ones are in with the in crowd, and they get to distribute narcotics. The only question is it ever circling, like they seize it and then put it back on the street, seize it from the ones they're arresting, and then put it back on the street with the ones they're selling it with. The one police officer that was arrested, he's not the only one. He's the proverbial tip of the iceberg. And it does include assassination of honest police officers and members of the community that they're worried about. If they think somebody's a quote-unquote snitch. It's murder. It's murder. Because law enforcement officers have engaged in that type of murder, they're not willing to prosecute it or even investigate it. It's killed plenty of police officers. I believe they killed Bruce Schultz back in the 90s. They got disappeared Bob Levinson. They killed Jonathan Luna. The reason is they couldn't trust them to bring them into the criminal enterprise. And of course, most likely, Jonathan Luna had investigated and possibly arrested one of their people. I think it's pedophilia. Because that's what they kind of were pushing at the courthouse. Like that this person's a pedophile, or that person's a pedophile. And they try to sexualize me in that direction. And but that included all the places I stayed after the courthouse also. New Jersey, New Mexico, Florida. That's why it was so hard to fight the pill mills, because they're all corrupt. And they're in. With like the governor's people. It doesn't mean the governor himself does it, but he knows how it works. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. it appeared to me. Oh, this is what I want to say. Here in Oklahoma, it's so funny because the narcos, a lot of the narcos here, the white narcos, are marked just like in Mexico. They drive these mile-high big pickup trucks. There were a couple of them outside Best Buy today. They possibly were trigger men. So if I came up out of there a little weirded out, they would shoot me. So again, they're doing CIA stuff. That's how they kill officers. That's when you see an officer commit suicide. They CIA him to death, whether it's suicide, whether it's CIA or not. And I guess in Jonathan Luna's case, it's still whether it's suicide or not. Because there are signs of murder. However, when we think about somebody on LSD having a bad trip, that could be that type of suicide. Or any other type of narcotic that they develop for spycraft use. Their goal is to mimic mental illness and then, over the long haul, cause mental illness by wiring the person in the directions they're looking for. And when they do military intelligence assessment, if you look like you're becoming healthy again, then they attack again. And of course, we do have officers under the color of law participating in that type of felonious capital criminal activity. You're not going to find a lot of times direct negotiation, although you'll find that. What you'll find is they're being hired by spycraft activity, mimes, people that role players that walk by and tell them something. Like first they'll try to extort them. Then they'll bring them in and they'll increase their life as long as they look the other way when they're told to look the other way. But look the other way today is what, tons of fentanyl. So again, they started with, some coke in the 80s, looking the other way. I believe my boss in the Marshal Service is a cocaine cowboy along with his family. Or my prior boss, but he's still a boss. Or at least was last time I checked. I'm not interested in looking at that piece of shit. So again, it started with the cocaine cowboy takeover. We did not succeed fighting the cocaine cowboy. They became part of law enforcement. They became part of intelligence. That money led to the next movement, which was the Russians, and then into the Mexicans. They all recruited people. The Mexicans are a little trickier because they don't blend in as well. They don't have alternative things. When you get to someplace like New Mexico, yes, Florida, yes, they can blend in a little better. Some of the people that are being, like the tips come in, they're actually expendable. The cartel is taking somebody out, but maybe using state, local, federal, DEA to take out a loose end. They only have so much information or a setup. Again, some people driving across that border, they're just fodder. They're there to be arrested. Again, the question is, and I guess it could be both, but are they being is it a diversion? That's the easy one. Is it payback of an officer? Is an officer given that to look good because the officer actually lets others through? So you may have a hot officer, that he or she is really good at detecting narcotics on the border, and you think twice about that person. But that person may be actually propped up by narcotic smugglers, could even be people in intelligence agencies that are part of it. So again, you'll find people that are very wealthy in law enforcement. They seem to have hit well in the stock market. However, that's their payment for looking the other way or taking out a law enforcement officer that they want taken out. That's our biggest issue, is that law enforcement officers that could do possibly a better job, but a more dedicated job, are being killed out because they can't be trusted to look the other way. And there is an inference that people in intelligence don't like an honest cop because they don't want to be arrested. There was a ton of information in that book about when they arrested Aldrich Ames. There's a recent book. That book has information about how paranoid the CIA was about the FBI. And I guess that would be anybody in the Justice Department. So we had 9/11 happen, and 9/11 is kind of weird. I don't think that special forces went in there and blew up the building. However, when that information comes out, that defines a cover-up of something. In other words, put the conspiracy theory out there, and then everybody will think anything that, but what is the straight story is strange. There's no doubt that the FBI messed it up. How and why is still a question. Could the CIA have screwed over the FBI? Yes. I mean, it's that bad back then. It was that bad. That's why people like the guy that they shot in Houston, that's why that gets kind of weird. There was bad blood like that for years. But I think when Carnaby was shot, they may have launched another attack on law enforcement, on taking over law enforcement. And again, it isn't just CIA. It's former, retired people in those spycraft organizations, the private sector. And people think it's just okay to bring narcotics in because it's not their family, because they only did it once or twice to get rich, and then that's it, or the corporation was going to go under, and if they didn't sell narcotics, then Trump wouldn't be a billionaire, that kind of thing. So it's intertwined. It's a web. As far as payment, again, that's the hard part. You'll find that they do well in the stock market, but they're sent coded messages, or somebody walks by and says a company. They could walk by and say, Walmart. Let's say Walmart. They go walk by, and go, every time they walk by and say a company, the person invests and then they get rich. But to get there, they have to do something. And that something is subliminally messaged into their life using, ad feeds, news feeds, people walking by and appearing in conversation and saying something. So again, that's what's most likely going on in most circles. But then again, once that's up and running, I'm sure they at a certain point probably get paranoid enough to be physical with other officers to say, we got this covered. Russians are probably part of it, more part of it. And again, they'll use all the little things we see out there, let's hate cops, let's hate. Again, what they're actually doing is they're killing me as a cop, is what's happening. But, cops are part of it. Because they're not honest cops, again. But that's what's bringing the narcotic in. You're not that stupid. You're not missing that much. It's being led in here by somebody. Well, I know the person could be the director of the DEA at this point. I mean, if they're a U.S. Marshal, they could be possibly a director of the DEA. Maybe a little more difficult, but possible. So again, just closing out my time here in Oklahoma City. Can't give anything a go. Can't give the church a go. There are people here that are good people. They're too afraid that they're not going to be much use. The other ones are all corrupt, with the law enforcement's interlaced with corruption. Again, they play this thin blue line concept, and of course, it's not the thin blue line when they take out law enforcement officers. I came here in good intention. I did work for Tulsa as far as internet work, protecting the officers that had the shooting with the individual that was on PCP, I think it was. And I did a couple other, law enforcement assists that would affect Oklahoma up as far as internet lobbying and internet information that restores trust, that kind of thing. But when you want to be that corrupt, there's no reason to restore trust in anything. The only thing you do then is destroy it until it gets right. I really do believe big box stores are part of it. I've seen corruption in every big box store that I've visited in the last probably 10 years. Any corruption has to be, as far as what I'm seeing, it has to be financed by narcotics. As far as the smuggling network, it would make absolute sense that it's coming in through the big box store delivery system or transportation system. They're rolling down the road in their 18-wheelers, whatever it is. And then, in the stores, I mean, you've seen some of that, but again, the people that you're actually catching, this thing's got some plosive going. I guess they want to shoot me. The people that you're actually catching are might be a setup. Like they're expendable. They're the ones they want you to arrest. I don't know if you get a lot of intelligence off them, then they're probably not. But if it seems like a dead end somewhere, and they only have so much information, then and the question is whether they would speak to you. They're probably so afraid anyway. No, it's at that level. I've seen them. They'll kill anyone. They're very sick. They're doing like CIA operations to kill officers and agents that they want killed. So if you're an agent and you go to the Home Depot, you'll end up getting psyoped, and you might get drugged. If you ordered something, they could put something on it. Again, my assessment is that it's LSD at a minimum that they were using at the Garmatz courthouse back in probably at least probably somewhere in the 90s, and then probably out to the point that I left and when John was killed. I was the next one to be killed after John. And then, of course, the month before, it was Inspector Neely in New York. They did him. Now, he may have taken some money, because I joke about the missing money, which remember, the illusion is deep. It's spycraft. So Inspector Neely may not have taken any money, but he could have taken the money. But then we go back to Bustamante, Vincent Bustamante, pulling the shotgun. That's all set up. When you get to that level of spycraft, you popping some LSD in somebody, screwing up their finances, they can psychologically trigger you to spend money. And you're supposed to be protected from that, right? Well, we probably even have our own CIA doing that to people. And they're going, why would we do that? That person's probably not supposed to be in the government. No, we're protecting. I mean, I got them to admit to it, right? After I gave them all that shit for about 10 years, they finally said they were the deep state, right? So they admitted to it. It exists. Don't let them go back on it and say it doesn't exist. But, of course, they're not doing what they say they're doing. We know the people that they killed, right? We know they are. We know they're not criminals. We know they may have slipped in life, but I had the answers and told you why. There are no answers to why they slipped in life other than they're crummy piece of shit criminals and belong in hell, not on earth. So, yeah, I rate Oklahoma City PD as assassinative and murderous, along with whoever else is working with them here. They'll kill a cop in a second, like a mafia. It's like a mafia. So again, what do mafias do? They have a lot of scams, racketeering, narcotics distribution. Same thing. No doubt. Oh, no, there's only one officer. That was the guy over there. We only arrested him. He's just a dumb addict, probably. The ones that are doing well and not using, they're out there. But they made money in the stock market, we promise. I don't know what Kansas City's like. Hopefully they learned their lesson from the guy that got arrested. When I get up there, if they're operating, if anybody's operating, I'll let you know. If you don't take care of it, I'm gonna rate you as that a fake. That's a fake case. Oh, he did do it, but it's just to cover over everything else that you're doing. Like, oh yeah, we're an honest police department. Let's see, we arrested this detective here. I guess the feds did it, but you know. That's how it works. I mean, there's no other system other than what I'm describing. Nothing else exists. I mean, there's cops that are afraid of it. There's new cops that don't know about it. But you're not going to spend more than 10 years, and then, of course, some just a few years. If you're corrupt, they'll tell you in a few years what it is, and they'll bring you in. But you're not going to spend more than 10 years in a police department without knowing it exists. That's why, I don't know if you remember back into the academy and advanced course, I think they say it too, when they give you that, professional responsibility thing. Most officers, they have internal investigations and have trouble with internal investigations about 10, 12 years. So you know what that is, right? If you're not corrupt by 10 years, they're taking you out. No, I don't believe there's a good office left anywhere in the country. And until I believe that, God will rule and God will destroy. So again, you need to look at the big box stores. The security people are definitely dirty. I don't want to hear that they're working for a cop. They're dirty. They love being dirty together. Love bumping ass in the club with the criminals. They're doing this shakedown hustle. High five and getting a few beers, doing a few lines, taking a pill, a little bit of meth to get you through the night. I gotta admit, it's probably intoxicating. I never took anything illegal when I was, in the government and all that. I was, I used, what do they call that stuff? Ephedrine, so I get some ephedra. So I imagine it's the same thing, or not the same, but similar, But that's why I never understood. Like, why don't you just buy ephedra? Go to the bodybuilding store. Get away from that stuff. And you can't use too much ephedra. I only use it for a while and then get off it. I never made any sense to me. Like, why are you using drugs? I tell people all the time back then, I'd say, look, you go to the store, you can get bodybuilding stuff, make you feel all sorts of different ways. I'm not even talking about steroids. You can go get ephedra, you can get, some of the hormonal stuff will make you feel a little better. You get, there's some natural plant sterols. They're my big ones. They're just plant substances. I still take ashwagandha. I have no idea what you people are taking narcotics for. I mean, I understand some people are sick and they need some things, but generally, you don't need narcotics. You go into the store. You walk to Walmart right now, you can get ashwagandha gummies. Take 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. We'll fight the deep state all day. So again, they're corrupt. They're corrupt. The security entities have been infiltrated by corrupt law enforcement at this point. Are there any good law enforcement officers in there? Well, I like to say is none good, no, not one. That's what the Bible tells us. If things reverse and it goes back to the way it was or something similar to that, I'll probably say there's some good people out there, but not now. Too far gone. You're killing all these people on drugs. They're psychologically operating people. They're not making them afraid of crime. They're psychologically destroying a person's mind until they commit crime. Yeah, part of it, I'm just looking at Gabby here. She's showing the suicide sign. Yeah, they want me to kill myself, I'm sure. Like I told my brother, we're Jewish. We can't commit suicide. They don't know that. I don't know if any Jewish people ever commit suicide, but it's so un-Jewish to commit suicide. Like, does this show up? I wonder if does that show up? Do you see that person there? They did that. He did that to him. If I knew that guy, he never would have committed suicide. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I remember back in Marshall Service, I'm like, what the hell is this? But you know what I said? I said the same thing that Bob said, but I had less ears than Bob. So when Bob said that, I knew the deep state had done him. Bob Levinson. He said, 30-something years in the government had to mean something. When they were killing me in Baltimore, I thinking 20-something years serving my country, because half my time was military, half my time was like, I guess a third of my time was military, maybe 2/3 was law enforcement. And I'm like, 20 years serving the country, it's got to mean something. I'm like, and then Bob said, I was like, they put out that video, I was like, oh my God. It was the deep state. Or whatever. I called him Federico back then. The Federal Rico. Hey, look, do you know her? I don't know. She's in my feed here. She's on my restream. You know all those people. Those are the people that used to steal drugs on Earth. That's what happens to them. Now, I'll tell you what. I still think El Chapo was possessed his whole life. I know that's weird. So there are some people that can actually, God will take. I don't know where God puts them because it's kind of weird, but God has a way of fixing things. But God will take them and say, you never lived a day of your own life. You were possessed your whole life. So there are some people like that, but they're few and far between. Why El Chapo? His childhood was described, and that's where it happens generally. Anybody that's abused or especially sexually abused, they begin to possess them, and someone will go, well, I'm in the FBI, and I was abused, and I never. Your parents are probably rich or something. So there are ways out of it, right? But people in poverty that are abused, a lot of things happen to possess them to life. Not condoning anything he did. It's just he has the signs of being possessed his whole life. Because again, it's like Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was possessed. He failed. What did he get? Like really, like at the most 10 years of goodness, and really not that goodness. I mean, the end was kind of be tragic for his mind. And I think he was on drugs, meth, and all that stuff. There were people that actually made money all the way through World War II and made money after World War II. So those people are actually the devils that caused it. So there are people that deal narcotics secretly, could be a corporate leader or corporate leaders, and they, they're the ones that the reason it exists. Again, when you look at the, actually right now it looks like they're longer because El Mencho or whatever his name's been in a long time. But when they have those, like El Chapo had like a choppy, it's not like El Mencho. El Mencho, I think he had a pretty good thing going on there for a while. Like El Chapo, it got really crazy, and he had to hide, and especially when you caught him, you saw how he looked. So again, that doesn't really show too much control and longevity of success. So when you see longevity of success, that's probably a real devil. And again, there are people in the corporate world. I mean, I think Trump, he just has that persona that, if he ever needed money, he wouldn't be past importing some cocaine or something. All right, again, we get the Project Artichoke. When I tell you CIA stuff, yeah, they dabbled in it. Could be anybody. This is a good one to read. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952. And so, that's 1952 more. Yeah, just think about not stopping doing that all those years because they haven't. So they really refined the program. Hypnotism can come via triggered mental illness, which means it's triggered trauma, but it causes mental illness. Was outlined in a memo dated. All you have to do is take them away and let the person's life restore, and they most likely heal. But they won't do that. They're in every community now. So, F every community. God should rule and destroy every community. That's just the way it's going to work. Told you that before my life went down below a certain point. I tried to warn you. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that asked, Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do or she will do our bidding against his or her will, and they will, or can we get control of them so you are bidding against their will, even against fundamental laws of nature such as self-preservation? Again, Project Artichoke, mass shooting, some of them are that. These people are going in the head. They'll just do whatever they can to exercise their narcissism. And it isn't standard narcissism. It's group narcissism. It's cult. And it's in law enforcement. They're doing these things to kill people. Like if John committed suicide, that's what they used. It talks about hypnotism. I'm trying to find that slide. I don't know if I have it here. I'm trying to look for it here. I'm not seeing it. So again, it speaks about hypnotism, but hypnotism can come via the way of psychological trauma, psychological torture. If they apply the trauma, no, I don't have PTSD from the war. I have it from, not a terrible case, but a bad enough case from, I've been doing it for 30 years, from federal government. They were trying to get rid of me from the beginning. I didn't even know what it meant. I just thought they were a bunch of assholes. So they just increase. And they use CIA spycraft, CIA psychological murder techniques. Somebody leaked them and they use them. Pieces of shit. So the hypnotism is a prolonged administration of psychological trauma. And again, law enforcement's part of it, so there's no way to really combat it other than kill it. And I don't mean that physically, but psychologically and metaphysically. So the reality is that you're dealing with everything I say you're dealing with, and it's very complicated, but it's easy to understand because I think some people have already experienced it and were able to get away from it long enough. I believe in Santa Fe, the TSA guy, I brought that up earlier. The TSA guy was being operated. He lived in my housing area and went home to Maine, thank God. I was seeing signs that there were messages being sent via license plates to TSA. They could have tried to extort him, and he sent him out of here, because he may have been the only honest TSA person there. I mean, every day that could be coming in the Santa Fe product. All it takes is probably five TSA people there or something. That's not much to pay off. In fact, it'd probably only take 2 or something like that. Trying to clean this up here. See, show. Okay, it's hidden. Okay. I'm working a new system here, so it takes a little while to get the hang, but it works good. It's so funny. If I use my PC, there's no power in it anymore. They killed it or something. Because all I have to do is get on my Surface Pro, and I'm like ding 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 ding. I get on my PC. It's like, oh, I wonder if they put something in it. I mean, if they're not beyond it, believe me. I mean, the cartels are at spycraft level at this point. I mean, you do have some gross operation that's not spycraft level, but somebody's operating spycraft to empower the cartels. And they could put, chips in things and all that. It's, we're not living 20 years ago where you say the person's crazy because they say there's a chip or direct energy. Now, the government's trying to play that off. Why? Because it's probably their people, or their connect. Empower me and make me a director. Use direct energy on whoever gets in my way. That's the kind of way the government's become. Why? Why? Because of that. Money, that is. I mean, unless you all have something you want to say. So again, I'll be closing out here in a couple weeks, and moving up to Kansas City. If that, what is his name, Gablowski or whatever, if that case is bullshit, I'll be able to figure it out. What I mean by bullshit, yeah, he did it. But if it's just, hey, this is to show everybody how we actually prosecute people that are corrupt, if corruption's going on real time, then forget it. It's fake. Let me see if this is the other slide. No, it's the same one, isn't it? Like a self-preservation. Bob did things that are against self-preservation. Back in like 2007, I guess it was, and when that came out, I was like sitting there. I was like, I don't know, my mother was at home, I guess. I think it was at my mother's place in Naples. And I'm like, I can't believe they did this. Was I there or was it somewhere else? I can't remember where I was, but I was like, I can't believe they did this. And then I read Bob was smuggling cigarettes into Iran, and I'm like, well, he lost his power. He's doing criminal stuff. That's criminal to smuggle cigarettes. I'm like, that's why they got him, because he was doing criminal stuff. He used all your protection. And then I'm like, you better not have sent him over there on a mission. You better not have done that. The stupidest thing on earth. Somebody wanted him to go over there. That's what I believe. I mean, he was operated. I believe they wanted, from what I'm feeling, I think it was in Turkey first. They thought he was going to go and they were going to grab him in Turkey. Because the Russians were big. I think they had some stuff in Turkey. Was he ever in Cyprus? Or was that the next location? They wanted him gone. Now, you have to understand, they're listening into our cell phones. When I was in Baltimore, I think it was a listening device they were using. They did listen to my cell phone, that's for sure. They let me know by dinking it. When I'd say something, they'd go. It was an Nextel. Now think about the Nextel line. Think about that word. Nextel. Next time you tell somebody. Again, it was somebody in the government gave us Nextels for a reason. So I went to this marriage counselor, and we were talking about my military. And we started talking about military. They're going, bah, 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 bah. They start beating this horn crazy. And the dude was, I could tell that the counselor was operator already. Because he was like, so they're trying to make the inference that I can't talk about my military experience. It's not because that I can't talk about it. It's because they don't want me to talk about it. They want people to not know that I served my country because they're planning on killing me. So they need me to shut up about who I really am because they're going to walk around telling people I'm a rapist and a pedophile, when I use drugs or I deal drugs. They actually investigated me for like heroin distribution. I got pulled over. I'm like thinking, you're pulling me to frick over just so somebody can bring drugs through. You fucking assholes. The cop in Santa Fe, or I think it may have started in Arizona. Actually, it's probably Santa Fe. This is in New Mexico. So they make the phone call, have him pull me over and harass me, kill two birds with one stone. And there's a guy following me that they don't pull over. And he goes, "Rrr." They pulled me over twice in like a half hour. Meanwhile, the guy with the real drugs that works with the Santa Fe PD cop or the New Mexico State Police cop just sailed right by. Idiots. Let's see what else I got here. Am I going to go to sleep? What do you mean? Oh, I can hear you. It's in the head. So I'll tell you what. They had to take the Congress. They had to take the freaking Congress because it was all set up. The whole thing, the whole thing with the justices, the Supreme Court justices, the whole goal was they had to take the Congress, or at a certain point, they had to take Congress, and that's why they passed the gerrymandering thing and all that, because that's how they were going to take Congress. So they took Congress, the judges said it when legal and all that. But I mean, they disenfranchised people of color, there's no doubt. And disabled people like myself and others. They connected like our like, I don't vote because it's all bullshit anyway, but I could do more not voting than I can voting, believe me. So I give up my power if I vote. Because I call yourself system bullshit, so I don't partake in it. But I do pay taxes because I have to. Jesus says that's what we have to do. And of course, I would tell you to do that too. I tell everybody that. So this way they can't impeach the justices, right? But that was because they overturned Roe versus Wade. They did this, they did that. Everybody was going to kill them, and then they got the gerrymandering through. There's Trump telling everybody never say anything. Don't say anything. Don't tell him anything. Yeah, it's all a dog and pony show. You all know that. I'm getting sleepy. You may know that guy. Yeah, he stabbed me in the back. He'll have fun in hell. This takes time, that's all. God operates a couple years behind, sometimes 2 to 10 years behind. Depends on what's going on and where it's going on. So what happened was I wasn't like cursing anybody, and I still don't curse anybody direct, actually. I just cursed the thing that attacks me, and they were having trouble in life. So they all got mad. Instead of just getting away from me and letting me exist. They saw the miracles that I was engaged in. They saw everything. They knew I was doing good things for people. They knew the people who were coming after me, God was punishing. They just kept going, huh? Video projects. What's that? I don't know what that folder is. Yeah, I got to get stuff off my hard drives and on here. I have tons of photos and all sorts of stuff I could put up on here. But that's the biggest one right here. This is very important. Where is that? That one. Is it that one? Oh, no, it's not that one. That's this one here. So, John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. You have to understand something. When people are Ezekiel 34 victims, that it doesn't certain things don't apply to them because they're in the victim category. And there's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people like that. So again, Jesus has a lot of truth that he rehashed that already existed, and then he brought some new things. If people are spiritually blind, their sins are not held against them. And I went back and forth with this, and God's not going to be able to get this one through because Earth would block it with everything it has. Because this is not our Father's kingdom, so don't let the evangelicals tell you they're rich because this is God's kingdom or something. But the question is, did Jesus actually ever physically give someone sight? You don't know. It may have been spiritual sight. We don't know. Doesn't matter. No, not really. But yes, you can heal vision. Things that medicine, like in medicine, we through medicine and other things we advance, and people are healthier. That's through healing. That can't happen without healing. So can Jesus stand before somebody and heal their vision? Of course he could, if the planet was that high up metaphysically. You've watched people live through things that they never could have lived through because it's metaphysical. It's not physical. There are physical aspects to it, but everything's metaphysical. It's just there's a physical part of it, but it's all metaphysical. No, I don't come through and go, oh, there's the 4 blind people. I go, F you devils, willing and cursing blind people into existence. That's how I live my life. You're all going to effing hell. Think it's funny, huh? Oh, but they give charity, and they're in the church. Let's see what I have here on my slides, if there's anything we can use here. All right, God really wants you to be still and know that God is God. God will be exalted among the heathen. God will be exalted in the earth. Again, you have to understand that that's forever, the statement. Like a lot of people going, like back when Bible was written, this like confuses people, makes them scared. Well, maybe it's not true. And it's a statement where they try to make it true because they go, okay, wait a minute, God is not slack and, in coming and all that. So what's happening? These statements that are being made are limited by earth and our mind, because our mind is not the same as earth, and earth is not the same as our mind, because God's thoughts are higher than ours. So what God was talking about wasn't what we were perceiving, but yet it's still there, and it has grown over the years. We've lost a lot of people. God told me that the majority of people here working for God, that there are Messiah people. And the Messiah people, a lot of Jews were Messiah people. How that works, I don't care. If God tells me they exist and God's going to use them a certain way, then this thing's fighting me. Because it's a valid source? No, it is God. It's not my Father's kingdom, or this wouldn't work. There's actually heathen. Okay, Corinthians 11:14, King James Version, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, and ministers of righteousness. That's the evangelicals and others. I don't like say it's one person, because now they're going, oh, it's the Christian nationalists. Oh, that's all it is. It's Whitborough Baptist. But the idea is that there are heathens that are simply heathen because they're possessed. They don't have their own mind. If they would connect to God, they'd be holy roller upon holy roller, like I was, but they were killing me, of course. So then God said, you'll just be the angel of vengeance. Don't worry, we don't need you to preach quite as much. We'll just have you do angel of vengeance stuff now, because the era of preaching is dying out now, because the church itself is a devil. I mean, a devil. I'm not talking about just sinful. They're devils, and they're causing all the fallenness and the crime. Again, we go back to Ezekiel 34, and some of the other scriptures. The church is part of the deep state. Oh, we call them partners. We prefer to call them partners. Partners in what? Crime? So again, our perceptions are not God. God's whack. I mean, we like if you actually had an experience with God, like God's whack. God is whack. No, I don't think I'm God, even though I'm whack. I just do what God tells me, and that way I stay alive longer, and I'm healthier than Jonathan Luna right now. And I'm not only healthier than Jonathan Luna, I'm healthier than Bob. Actually, I take that back. They're both pretty healthy. They're sad here right now. Yeah, they just flipped around. You like my wings? Look, Bob's here laughing. I just heard him in my own head. So these are like people I'm going to meet when I go to heaven, when I die. I'll meet Bob. I never met Bob. Barely met John. I didn't meet many people. They just stuck me in a corner, fed me shit. Asked me to do everything that nobody else wanted to do. So again, there's when I speak about the psychological operation, there's people that are in prison for being forced to crime, and that's going to condemn this nation and condemn its people continually until that gets brought out. You have to speak out about it. It has to end. No more spycraft murders. You can't just stop it. You got to speak about it. There's people in prison that never would have committed a crime without being harassed and psychologically operated and psychologically tortured to crime. I mean, it's disgusting what you're all doing. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.